Hey everybody, this is David Duford from Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, and today I am doing a mini interview with my wonderful agent Michael out of Tennessee. And the purpose of this is that if you've heard his other interview I've done, which was the cross-selling on Medicare book of business, Michael's been working with me for a year, and last week he actually had the highest grossing production week of his entire career, which is just under a year. And so what I wanted to do is bring Michael on to explain how much he sold, how did he do it, and then tie that into the bigger picture of how he got to this point with even just a little bit under a year's experience. So first of all, welcome to the call, Michael. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Excited about the week ahead.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you choosing to interview me about it.
Sure, as always, you're fun to talk to, and it's always that much more fun to talk about the fantastic results you've had. So why don't you do this? Go ahead and tell everybody how much production you did last week. I'll let you go ahead and share it.
Okay, so last week was great. We ended up hitting 13,500 in annual production for the week. And that was working Monday through Saturday. At the end of Friday, I was already to 11.9, and then capped it off on Saturday, got up to 13.5. So I don't always work 6 days, but chose to this week because the momentum was so good.
Right.
Kept going that way. I think I ran 37 appointments and ended up with 19 apps out of that process. So it was great.
So let me jump in here and kind of question a few things here. So you're telling me that in 1 year's of experience, you sold $13,500 in premium in 1 week.
Yep.
Selling a bunch of old grandmas and grandpas a burial policy, right? Because I'm sure there's people on this call who are listening to this thinking, how is that even possible, to sell low-income people that much coverage? But you did. I mean, you weren't selling anything else other than burial insurance, right?
That's all. Totally burial insurance and, several lower premiums. And then there were, of course, some nicer premiums in there. None of them exceeded $130. The average one was probably just like always, 40 and 50.
Right.
With a few nice ones in there with it, but just sometimes we learn the stars line up.
That's right.
I could run 37 appointments this week and not have that happen. However, it is possible.
Right. So building on what you said there, Michael, you did 37 appointments. How many actually showed up? So you set 37. How many did you actually sit down with?
I think that is probably how many I sat down with. We probably set 45.
Okay.
And typical no-shows, 37 is how many I actually sat down with.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a good number. So out of those 37, you close basically half of them, a little more than half, about 19. So
yes.
Did you say 19 or was it 17?
19.
19, okay. And, doing the math roughly there, like you said, you're looking at about maybe about a $650 to $700 case size average, which, again, it's not like you wrote this $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 premium deal and then had a bunch of normal deals. I mean, this is all bread and butter business that we all run into that have been in this business long enough. So, again, this is a testament to somebody who's gone out there, who has worked the system and has leveraged it to the point of just working their butts off to get to this point. This is all typical stuff, is what it sounds like to me. There's no magic involved here or some huge grand slam. This is all bread and butter business, right, Michael?
Yeah, like I said, there's no policy was greater than $130. This isn't figuring in some big annuity or something crazy in there with it. It was just plain basic final expense life insurance and a couple of the $100 range, but the rest is just what you see day to day. And Um, just really fortunate to be able to do that, and kind of get my head around how it's possible, and starting to really realize some of the steps it takes to get to this point, and running some averages over the last few weeks. Of course, not all weeks are this good, but my numbers went way up overall on an average basis, and this week gave me another, realization as to how it really works. Some of it goes against your intellect, but once you see it, it's an eye opener, and it'll turn you from okay, and I'm no whiz kid. I'm just following the system and realizing a few key elements that go against your natural reaction. So we'll go over that. Go ahead, David, and we'll cover that part.
Absolutely. So and that's kind of what I wanted to build in. I mean, my tonality here on the interview is kind of sounds like I'm skeptical. I'm not purposely sounding like that because I'm thinking of the guys listening to this, thinking, how does a guy get to this point? I mean, I know what it takes. It's just a numbers game, but it's amazing when you hear it from somebody else who, you've obviously thought through this and questioned whether it was possible to do it or not, and you've done it. And that kind of leads me back to what I was saying is, I mean, if you were talking to somebody who was looking on the outside in, maybe thinking about getting involved in this business, how would you explain to them how this is even possible? I mean, how can somebody do 37 appointments in a week, sell more insurance than most agents will ever sell, not just in a month, but sometimes even 3 months if they're actively producing? I mean, how is this even possible?
Well, I think the key thing, and this is the progression for me when I first came into this, I wasn't in a position to be buying leads. I ran some Medicare appointments and got myself going and started with what I could afford and lead-wise, mailers, and started putting back a little bit to where I could increase if I could get my confidence up. And so I had a couple of bad weeks. When I say bad, I mean I made money, but I didn't do great. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm realizing now this is a numbers game. What I need to do. And I had this thought and talked to David. He goes, just see more people. Well, see more people means spend more money. And I'm going, okay, now I made this much off of 20 leads. Your intellect is crap. I don't know. That's a high amount of money to be spending for that much return. But then I realized it was a numbers game. So what I did is I went against my regular, or what most people would withdraw back, or let's wait a little longer before we order more. Basically, I just said, I'm going to give this all I have. And so I said, here, send me 40 leads.
Right.
And I just took a leap of faith. I said, send me more leads. I'm going to do this. And the difference between that was just phenomenal, because sure, that first week you're like, you feel tense and everything, and then you start seeing the return. It's a huge eye-opener. And not to mention the compounding effect. It's a numbers game. So when I say compounding effect, I mean after a couple of weeks of ordering a large amount of leads, you're going to start to pick and glean appointments off the ones who couldn't see you last week and couldn't,
Right.
Grandma's sick and we have to wait till next week. But you start adding all those together and you start seeing more people. And then it's great the way it works, because you basically have to, it's no magic bullet to it. You just have to spend the money to make it and be willing to work and follow the system. That's basically it. When I saw that, the more I spend, the more I make, the better off it turned out to be. And I'll say this, you can't just buy the leads and stay at the house. You've got to go work and see your people. And I just got in a process where I could identify a qualified prospect, and if they weren't that person, I'd move on to the next one,
Right.
and just keep going.
So wait a minute. Now let me ask you this. I mean, are you telling me that what you do to get 39 appointments is no different than what it would take to get 10 or 15? I mean, the selling process, the appointment setting process. I mean, is there really anything that you're doing differently except just seeing more people?
Not at all. I mean, you can tell by listening to me, I'm no genius. I'm just following. I'm just following the rules. I mean, what it is seeing more people, and I was trying to figure out. Okay, so I took this leap of faith. I've ordered these more leads, and I'm going, David, how am I going to see this many people? And he explained to me a key element. That what I'm doing is we're setting appointments to where the customer has a 2-hour window that we're going to be there. And on my schedule for that day, I've got them set on the hour. But the customer has a 2-hour window. And so I'm able to get in there, get on with my warming up, which is very little, get to the point. If they're not qualified, I'm up and out there to the next place. Or if there's a no-show, I'm up to the next place. Or, you know, once you get in the house, there's two people there, a couple or something, I can take more time and get the deal done. And that's how I'm able to see more people. It actually gives you more energy. You think, God, that's a lot of work. And, you know, at the end of the week, you do feel some fatigue, obviously, but it gives you energy when you start having success and production. And not any one appointment matters so much when you're seeing those many people.
Right.
That's another key. You can do it. And I want to add this while I'm on this topic. If you can figure out, we all have the natural reaction of negativity when we don't get to sell or somebody can't afford it or I've had 3 in a row that aren't there. If a person can just shut the door on those emotions and say, this is a numbers game, I'm going to close the door on emotions, I'm going to light a fire in my sneakers, I'm just going to go see people. Right. And that's all I've done. I've done nothing but see people and try to maintain a positive attitude, and I've took that leap. So,
you know, thanks for that, because if me listening here, if I could summarize basically what you're saying, it's interesting because what you're doing is no different from what a skilled guy does that does half of the leads. There's a few scheduling differences that kind of make it a little bit more optimal. But that's the major thing. The one thing that does change to get to that level of production is a mentality shift. You know, and I preach this, and I wonder if it makes an impact. It does more so with the guys who've been in the business for several years or longer. That it all comes down, and what you're saying, it's all a mental game. It's all what's going on inside of your head, and that's what realization I led to myself believing, is that I'm my own worst enemy. We all are our own worst enemies. You know, this business is simple. It's not easy. And the big reason why it's not easy is because sometimes we are the ones that cause the biggest obstacles to happen. And if the audience has listened closely to this entire interview, what really has gotten Michael to this level is overcoming some obstacles in his own mind. Maybe he didn't know he had, or maybe were there, that are natural elements that cause resistance. You know, the fear of losing when they invest in a program. Even though he had success, there was still that kind of resistance, right? I mean, that's natural to have, but overcoming that and seeing it and taking a leap of faith, as everybody has to do to some level in any business capacity. You know, I knew it looking in. I know Michael's an excellent agent. It just took a little bit of persuasion and encouragement to say, hey, listen, there's nothing different than going from 20 leads a week to 40 leads a week, except that you're seeing more people and you're doing more activity. All you need to do is overcome that, you know, that initial resistance, and then, believe in yourself to take the leap. And that's kind of the reason I wanted to record this, is because what I train my agents to do is, once they dial into the program, once they know they've got confidence and skill level, I want them to leverage it up to the level that they want to. Because once they see themselves succeeding and they're out there seeing results, it's easier to convince them that, hey, listen, this business is simple. And if you want to make more than what you're doing, all you need to do is just do more of it. And taking that jump and that belief in yourself to make it happen. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I think one thing to add, if a person wants to give themselves a little more security and knowing, if you can't plug into what we've got going here, maybe it's not right for you. Everybody chooses their own level of work, of course, but if you're considering dialing up or amping up your volume of leads or anything of that nature, what I'm getting at here is, would you be willing to spend twice the money to make up to 4 times your return? And really all you have to do is get in your car, drive to the appointment, get the information. If you're stumped, you got a guy that's going to answer the phone and tell you what to do. How do you beat that? Well, in other words, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You just go and do the steps. If you get stuck, call David or whoever is helping you. And that's all it is. And he'll walk you through it. And it's not like you're out there on your own trying to make it. It's, I'm getting to where I call it less and less, but I had to call him a course during that time frame. And you're putting an investment there, but you've got a whole lot of support holding you up. It's
right.
just basically what it boils down to.
Right. Yeah, in this business, you got to learn to walk before you learn to run. And Michael took the time to learn the carriers, to interact with me to help him learn faster, but then also get the street experience working leads. And then once he became comfortable, that's when, the real large levels of income can be achieved from dialing in and leveraging the kind of resources we have available to get to the level Michael has. It's all something that everybody can do if they believe in themselves and they have the capability. It took me several years to do what Michael's doing because I am my own worst enemy. I am a tweaker and an engineer kind of by personality. I always try to see if I can do something better than the system. But what I've always learned, even to this day, is I always go back to fundamentals. Fundamentals are what matter in business and in sports, just the same. And the guys that play the fundamentals always are the ones that succeed over the long term. Again, the final expense business is a business that's been around a long time. It's been vetted. We know what works. And all it takes is somebody that has the personal discipline to overcome fear or personal obstacles to commit to the system to get the kind of success they want. And, that's probably the biggest impediment that I see amongst my agents is, the fear of investing, the fear of taking a risk, because that's what you do have to take. There's no guarantees. You may fail out in this business, but then again, you may never realize your full potential if you never strive to get beyond the self-inflicted shackles that you put on yourself. So, in conclusion, the point of this is just to share this success story that Michael has gone through over this last year of going from, not having money to buy leads to working his existing book to basically being in the top 5% of final expense agents. Michael has done nothing unique in the sense that he's not following anything different than any other final expense agent has done. All that he has done that is special, that if we will, is the X factor or the magical bullet here, is that Michael has the discipline to commit to the system and has, a little bit of chutzpah a little bit of balls to take the jump when necessary to push himself to the next level. and that is what it takes really to succeed. So, Michael, do you have any last
final
words?
word?
Go ahead.
It'd be not one final word. Don't overanalyze any one day, any one leads.
Yes.
I remember early on analyzing the leads and how many I sold per appointment, got all tangled up, looked back, and that same set of leads I was analyzing ended up selling 3 or 4 more 3 weeks later. So you got to remember, it's not, oh, here's what I made. That there's a compounding effect that takes place when you're buying leads, that you're going to get a certain percentage from last week and last month even at times. So don't analyze yourself to death. Just make the step and do the system. So that's the only thing left I had to say. Appreciate David for what he's done. Couldn't have done it without him, that's for sure. But appreciate that for sure.
You're welcome, Michael, and thank you for your business. And that last little bit there is the biggest gold nugget anybody could dig up. I mean, this business it's so simple, it's hard. And you don't understand it until you really work it, and you start having the internal battles of, is this the right lead? Am I working with the right people? Is this area good for final expense? Is it bad? And that inner battle is what creates the conflict that causes doubt, which ultimately crushes a lot of people in this business, really before they're able to take it to the next level and succeed to what they're capable of doing. And so, yeah, again, the paralysis by analysis, that's the internal struggle that I talk about and reference that you have to become dominant over, because if you allow it to spin out of control, then that's what creates losers in the final expense business. It creates a situation where people give up on themselves, which is the number one reason people quit this business, is they believe that they can't do it. It's not the leads, it's not the people they see, it's they quit themselves, and then they eventually quit altogether. So, Michael, thank you so much for your time again, as always. I know lots of people will find this very intriguing and definitely motivating to see what can be capable if one only commits to a vetted lead system and sales approach to final expense. The sky truly is the limit for those guys that are all in on it.
Yeah, appreciate it, David. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Michael, take care. Thank you.